Hello and welcome to our video on combining shapes. So in Illustrator, when we've been drawing all of our shapes, our circles and our squares and our stars and our pen tool shapes and our lines, they're all simple shapes. It's a line called a path, and a path is one or more straight or curved segments. So these are simple paths. Um, However, in Illustrator, you can also combine shapes together, and sometimes when you combine the shapes together, they still make simple paths, and sometimes they make compound paths. So, what are compound paths? Um, Compound path is any object that has an inside edge as well as an outside edge, a super object, or any text character that has been converted to outlines. All right, so this is a compound path. You can see that it is a box, and it has little stars inside of it. It's hollow inside. So it has an inside edge, an inside path, and an outside path. So that's what makes it a compound path. Um, Words that have been converted to text, sorry, text. Words are text. Words that have been converted to shapes using your type. Where is it? Create outlines tool. Those are also compound paths. This line here is not a compound path. It could have been made by something that it could have turned it into a compound path. That happens, but then they are not. So this here, for example, we'll just take this. This is make this bigger, and it is currently text. And I say create outlines, and it makes compound paths out of them. When I select this, you'll see it's actually a group. And if I ungroup it, object ungroup, then I get individual little pieces, and little pieces are called compound paths. Now, some of these compound paths are not actually very compound. Um, because there's nothing hollow about them, but it is making up a shape. And if I release this one from being a compound path, it actually stays in a T shape, even though it's just a path now. If I take the A, better zoom in here, and I release the A from being a compound path, it actually covers this in because it is two little pieces on top of each other. So it's a little bit like a clipping mask. Um, that we looked at in the last video, but instead of it clipping to show something, it's kind of clipping to hide the insides of something. That's the best way I could describe it. It's kind of like a reversed clipping mask. Um, you have to note though that when objects are grouped, they do not actually combine into each other. So if I take this circle and then I draw another circle and I draw another circle and I just deselect, they look like they're all one thing here, right? But I can still move them around individually. I can make Mickey Mouse ears out of them and a little face. I apparently suck at making Mickey Mouse. Uh, there we go. Oh my gosh, I can't get this to work. It's not a very good hidden Mickey. But anyway, if I select all of this, it's more like a black flower, and I group it together, object group, they are still individual pieces. So I move them around, they move around together, just like this will move around together, but it's not a compound shape, it's just a group. So be aware of that, that groups are not compound shapes. Now I could take this and make it into a joined shape, but again, it might not be a compound shape depending on what I do with it. Um, so from the menu, we have a couple ways to make compound shapes. We've got the type create outlines that I just showed you there, and there's also a thing that says called object compound path make object. Where is that? No, down here, compound path. All right. I'm gonna take our little Mickey Mouse ears here, and change the colors on them. So 1 and 2 will be a blue one, and 3 will be, no, it's at the bottom, it's fine. So in my group, I have these three shapes, these three circles, each different colors. The blue one is on top, black one is on the bottom. Object, compound path, make, and what it did, sort of, is it joined them together. You can see here that it recognizes it as being an ellipse still, but it's kind of joined them together. And it is a compound path in that I can move these pieces around and it will actually keep the pieces, even though they're got some hollowed out points on them. All right, and that's weird because it just did two of them there. I didn't do the third one. I'm not really sure why that is. Um, but you can do this with any kind of thing. That's how this one here was made, right? The pink one here with the stars. Um, just simple rectangle tool with two stars put on top of it. Um, the stars won't be different colors unless I deselect that and change the color first. Let's see, we'll make them yellow. And I say star, and I say star, and then I just select everything that I want to make the compound path out of. Oh, got them all. Object, compound path, make. Hollows it out. Same thing here. I can come into this and grab a hold of this path and move it around still. Change it up. And you can see here the quick actions. I can release it over here if I want. It's got a range, which means I can change the order of the selected object, but that's just the order on the page. So the release here is the same as coming back up top here and saying object, compound path, release. It's just giving you a quick way to it. All right. So that's the basics of combining shapes. Now we have a couple panels that actually help us out with this kind of stuff and some tools. So our first panel here is the Pathfinder panel. It's up here under Window, Pathfinder. And the Pathfinder has two things here. It has shape modes and pathfinders. So these are the pathfinders and these are the shape modes. So I guess I'll do the shape modes first since they are on top. So what this does is it affects stacked objects. If I select the stacked object, you'll actually see, let's do this one here really quickly. These are stacked on top of each other. They're touching. Again, the properties panel knows that they're stacked and it's actually giving me some of the shape modes here. It's not giving me the pathfinders, just the shape modes, but they are there for me to play around with. All right. These are what the shape modes do. You've got unite, minus front, intersect, and exclude. So what you do is you select the objects that you want to combine, and it's always going to take the color and the stroke and the fill off of the front object, except on the minus front one because you're subtracting the front. So if I say unite, I can come over here to shape modes. The first one is unite, and I click on it, and it just makes a shape out of it. This is just a path, plain old path. They can't be moved around like we could on this one when we made these and they could be moved around. They can't be moved around. If I wanted it to be moved around, I'm going to do edit, undo. You'll see when I hold over this, it says unite. Option click to create a compound shape and add to shape area. So if I option control, sorry, alt option, so alt on the PC, option on the Mac, and click this, now when it makes the shape, it keeps both the original shapes in there so they are movable. Again, these are merged together, so it's not going to do much for me there. If I pull them apart, oops, if I move one of them off of it, it doesn't do much, right? When you get to ones like exclude, it's a little bit more relevant to have that, but it is here in case you want it. So on the minus front one, we go here, hold over it, option click to compound shape. So I'm just going to click first of all. You can see that I made a moon. So if you're ever wanting to make a moon, that's a great way to do it. Two circles, one in front of the other, and then just do a minus front, and you will make a moon shape without having to try to draw it with your pen tool. Always work smart, right? If you know that you're trying to make a skyline and you need the moon and the stars, they're already there for you. Now, if I undo this again and I hold down the Alt Option key and click here, then you'll see that the shapes are still there. So I can actually change my moon at that point. Get in there, I can make it more of a crescent moon, more waxing or waning, right? Intersect, same thing. I can click on it, and it's just the pieces that intersect that are left. So in this case, it ends up just being this weird little triangle. So if you want a triangle with a curve on the bottom, that's the way to do it. You put the circle on top of it, right? You can also, again, hold down the Alt Option key on this one, and it gives you the pieces after the fact, so you can come back in here and move this around because maybe you want to have a bigger piece of the pie because it's like a pie, right? There we go. Exclude, same thing here. We come along, it says exclude, and you can also do the option click. So this is regular. It does make a compound path here, and this piece inside is movable, right? If I option click, oops, let's undo this. Sorry. And you can see again that it took the top color, so it made it all red, right? Which is again is different from the compound shapes, right? When I did this one, the yellow stars were on top, but it didn't take the top color, it took the pink color, the background color. So these are behaving a little bit differently than doing the compound path make, right? This one, when you hold down the option click, option, alt option, same thing, and little pieces inside of it. So I'm not sure what the difference is there. It's possible that it I don't know why the alt option was the same, but that's what happens. And if I want this to be permanent, I can say expand, and then it will make it a compound path. So getting rid of the alt option choice there. This is a similar one here where it's been cut out using one of these, the exclude. You can also do this, I did this way back in the beginning if you recall, with a circle shape I think it was, and the words were in there for like a wedding glass, was like a logo. So if I put words over this, and say exclude, did it work? Nope. You know why? Probably because the type is type. I don't know. No, because it's still allowed to be type. Why is this not working? Maybe you have to option click. Yep, there we go. So the option click allowed it to happen with the font in there. And I can actually still come in here and change the font. I can come in here and change the words, the style of it, whatever I need to do. So, and I had the option click to get that one. All right. The next group here are the Pathfinders. They're a little bit different. In the Pathfinders, you're not necessarily taking the top color. Are you? I don't think so. We'll find out here. So I've got all of these selected here. And with this first one here, it's called Divide, which separates the objects and retains them all. There's no Alt Option click thing here. It's just a choice, right? So what it did is it took all of the strokes and made shapes out of them. So each of these little pieces in here is a group, but each of these little pieces in here are tiny little shapes, right? So if I wanted to make something mosaic looking, I could do that and use that for it. You notice that it didn't change any of the colors or anything. It just chopped them all up. The next one here is called Trim. It separates the objects, deletes underneath, and loses the stroke. So the stroke is gone, and the pieces, if I come into this group that it's made, the pieces underneath are cut out. So the blue is missing its piece, etc. The next one here is Merge. Same as Trim, but combines contiguous same color. So does the exact same thing, removes the edge, but the yellow pieces are now one. They got merged together. They are contiguous. All right. The next one here is Crop. Crop. The top object becomes a cookie cutter, loses the stroke. So the top object took anything that was inside of it. It vanished. The top object vanished. The things that are inside of it are still there, broken up into little pieces, and they removed the stroke from them, and everything else is gone. So this green object here just kept the pieces that were underneath it, like that. Outline. This makes a really faint outline, which you could probably barely see on the monitor there. Um, the colors, it's good for trapping. That's for when you're using 4-color process. Like when they only use certain colors to try to save money when they're making T-shirts, etc. And they keep them it's hard to explain. They keep them a little bit separate from each other, so they don't bleed into each other. And this helps kind of fill the gaps between them. Not something that we are using or discussing or learning in this class, but if you have an interest, you can go into the graphic design department and learn all about printing over there, which is a great thing to learn if you're going to be going on to do this stuff, even if you're going to go do it for an agency or something, because that way you just have a general knowledge of this stuff. Like, I don't have a knowledge of it. It'd be cool to learn. So I think the better wide knowledge you can get when you're going and trying to get into the graphic design business, the better chance you have of finding jobs that maybe aren't your dream job to begin with, but they can lead you into other areas of interest. And the last one here is minus back, which is the reverse of minus front, and that it cuts away everything except for the front one. So the front one stays. Anything that was around it kind of cuts it. It keeps the stroke. So the red was pretty much useless here. The rest of these jagged cut into our front piece here. All right. This video is getting a little bit long, so I think I will stop here. I hate to stop here because the next part's pretty short, but I've gone on long enough. So that is the end of the Pathfinder panel. You're going to be using this for your homework, so do pay attention to that, and I will see you guys in the next video.